My beloved child, have you ever had the feeling that somewhere, in a place you have never seen, a conversation about you was taking place? A conversation that began with your name and slowly unfolded into something no one expected. Tonight's story begins exactly there. It begins with a simple moment, a quiet room, and words that changed the atmosphere completely. Imagine this. A family member is sitting comfortably, expecting an ordinary conversation. Nothing unusual. Nothing dramatic. Just another discussion about life, memories, and the people who matter. Then suddenly, your name enters the conversation. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just softly. Yet the moment it is spoken, everything changes. At first, the family member smiles. They think they already know what will be said. After all, how surprising could it be? But what follows is something they never expected to hear. A series of thoughts, observations, and feelings that had been kept hidden for a very long time. Stay till the end, because every detail matters. The person speaking does not rush. They choose their words carefully. Almost as if they have carried those words for months, maybe even years. Every sentence reveals another piece of a puzzle that nobody realized existed. The family member listens closely. Their expression changes. Curiosity replaces certainty. What was being shared? It was not gossip. It was not a complaint. It was something far more surprising. The speaker begins talking about moments that seemed small at the time. Moments most people would forget. A kind gesture. A quiet decision. A sacrifice that nobody noticed. Little actions that disappeared into ordinary days. Yet somehow, someone remembered every one of them. The family member becomes silent. How could another person remember such details? How could they recall things that even you might have forgotten? The answer slowly begins to reveal itself. Sometimes the things that leave the biggest impact are not the loud achievements everyone celebrates. Sometimes they are the quiet moments that nobody applauds. The moments when nobody is watching. The moments when a person chooses kindness, patience, or courage without expecting recognition. That is what made this conversation so unexpected. The speaker was not describing accomplishments. They were describing character. And character is something that cannot be faked. As the conversation continues, the family member starts hearing story after story. Small memories. Tiny moments. Fragments of the past. Each one paints a picture that becomes clearer and clearer. A picture of someone who influenced people more than they realized. A picture of someone whose presence mattered. A picture of someone whose actions created ripples long after the moment had passed. Something huge is waiting for you in this story, so don't skip. The room feels different now. The family member leans forward. What started as a casual discussion has become something much deeper. Then comes the first unexpected revelation. The speaker admits that there was a time when they completely misunderstood the person they were talking about. At first, they saw only the surface. At first, they made assumptions. At first, they thought they knew the whole story. But over time, they realized they were wrong. Very wrong. What changed? They began noticing patterns. Not one act of kindness. Not one good decision. Not one lucky moment. A pattern. And patterns tell the truth. Anyone can do something good once. Anyone can appear strong for a day. Anyone can seem caring for a moment. But consistency reveals who a person truly is. The family member listens carefully. Now the conversation has become impossible to ignore. Every sentence feels more important than the last. Every revelation adds another layer. And then the speaker says something that causes complete silence. They say that some people underestimate their own value because they spend so much time focusing on what they lack that they forget what they already bring into the lives of others. The room becomes quiet. Not because nobody has anything to say. Because everyone is thinking. Thinking about how true those words might be. Thinking about how often people overlook the good they create. Thinking about how many meaningful moments go unnoticed. Stay till the end. The most surprising part has not arrived yet. The speaker continues. They explain that many people search for dramatic signs that they matter. They look for grand recognition. Big celebrations. Public praise. But the strongest proof often appears in a different form. It appears when someone remembers your kindness years later. It appears when someone mentions your name with respect when you are not there. It appears when your actions become stories that others continue telling. The family member sits completely still. Because now they understand why this conversation feels so different. It is not about events. It is about impact. And impact lasts longer than moments. As the evening continues, another unexpected detail emerges. The speaker reveals that they almost never shared these thoughts before. They kept them private. Hidden. Unspoken. Not because they were unimportant. Because they were meaningful. Some thoughts are carried quietly. Some appreciation remains invisible. Some admiration exists without announcement. But tonight, for reasons even they cannot fully explain, they decided to speak. And once they started speaking, the truth kept flowing. Memory after memory. Story after story. Reflection after reflection. Until the family member realized they were hearing something rare. A perspective that had remained hidden for far too long. Don't skip. Something huge is waiting for you. Because the biggest revelation is still ahead. The speaker pauses. The room becomes silent again. Then they say one final thing before the conversation moves in an entirely new direction. They say that the most extraordinary thing about a person is often the quality they cannot see in themselves. The quality everyone else notices. The quality everyone else remembers. The quality that quietly changes lives. And as those words settle into the room, nobody immediately responds. Not because they disagree. Because they are realizing how much truth can exist inside a simple conversation. A conversation that started unexpectedly. A conversation centered around one name. A conversation that revealed far more than anyone imagined. And what happens next will make the story even more surprising. A strange silence filled the room after those words were spoken. Nobody expected the conversation to reach this point. What began as a simple discussion about a person had transformed into something far deeper. The family member sitting there could feel it. There was still more to uncover. There was still a piece of the story that had not been revealed. And somehow, everyone in the room knew that the next few moments would change everything. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. The speaker took a slow breath before continuing. For a moment, it seemed as if they were deciding whether they should say the next part at all. Their eyes lowered toward the floor. Their expression became thoughtful. The room remained completely silent. Then they finally spoke. There is something I never told anyone. The family member immediately paid closer attention. The atmosphere changed again. Not because the words were loud. Because they were honest. The speaker explained that there had been many times when they watched from a distance. Times when they observed choices being made. Times when they witnessed actions that most people would never notice. They described moments that seemed ordinary on the surface but carried extraordinary meaning underneath. The family member listened carefully. Every detail felt important. Every memory felt connected. Then came another revelation. The speaker admitted that there was one quality they admired more than anything else. It was not intelligence. It was not success. It was not popularity. It was resilience. The ability to keep moving forward even when circumstances became difficult. The ability to continue believing when things seemed uncertain. The ability to remain kind when it would have been easier to become bitter. That quality stayed in their memory. Year after year. Moment after moment. And they never forgot it. Stay till the end. Because the most surprising part of this conversation is still ahead. The family member was no longer simply listening. They were absorbing every word. Trying to understand why this discussion felt so powerful. Trying to understand why these memories carried so much emotion. Then the speaker revealed something nobody expected. They said that many people had misunderstood the person they were talking about. Not because that person was confusing. Because very few people took the time to see beneath the surface. Most people notice what is obvious. Few people notice what is meaningful. Most people remember appearances. Few people remember character. But character was exactly what had captured their attention. The family member could see genuine emotion in the speaker's face now. This was not casual conversation. This was truth. Truth that had remained hidden for far too long. And once truth begins to surface, it becomes impossible to ignore. Don't skip. Something huge is waiting for you. The speaker continued. They shared a memory from years earlier. A memory that seemed insignificant at the time. A brief interaction. A short conversation. A small act of kindness. Nothing dramatic. Nothing extraordinary. At least that is what everyone believed. But the speaker explained that this one moment changed the way they viewed that person forever. Why? Because it revealed who they truly were. Not who people assumed they were. Not who others described them to be. who they actually were. And that distinction mattered more than anyone realized. The family member became fascinated. Every answer seemed to create even more questions. Every revelation made them want to hear the next one. Then something unexpected happened. The speaker smiled. Not a large smile. A genuine one. The kind that appears when someone remembers something meaningful. They explained that whenever they thought about that person, one particular feeling always came to mind. Hope. Not because life was perfect. Not because everything always worked out. Because that person reminded them that good people still existed. The room grew quiet again. Those words carried weight. The family member could feel it. Everyone could. Stay till the end. The biggest revelation has not arrived yet. The speaker then revealed something that surprised even themselves. For years, they had never spoken openly about these thoughts. Not because they were embarrassed. Not because they were uncertain. Because they believed the moment would never come. They assumed nobody would ever ask. Nobody would ever wonder. Nobody would ever care. But now, sitting in that room, they realized they were wrong. Someone cared. Someone wanted to know. And now the story was finally being told. The family member leaned forward. Their curiosity had become impossible to contain. What was the final piece of the puzzle? What was the secret hidden beneath all these memories? The speaker paused once more. Then they shared something remarkable. They explained that the greatest impact people make is often invisible. Many people spend their lives searching for recognition. Searching for proof. Searching for confirmation that they matter. But real impact rarely announces itself. Real impact grows quietly. It appears in conversations years later. It appears in memories that refuse to fade. It appears when someone speaks your name with respect long after the moment has passed. And that was exactly what was happening now. A conversation. A memory. A name spoken with genuine appreciation. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. The family member finally understood why this discussion felt so different. This was not a story about achievements. It was not a story about status. It was not a story about fame. It was a story about influence. The kind of influence that cannot be measured. The kind of influence that quietly changes lives. Then came the revelation nobody expected. The speaker admitted that they had once faced a difficult period in their own life. A period filled with uncertainty. A period where they questioned everything. A period where they struggled to move forward. And during that time, they remembered something. Not advice. Not instructions. Not a speech. A simple example. The example set by the person they were talking about. The memory gave them strength. The memory gave them perspective. The memory helped them continue. The room became completely silent. Because now everyone understood. This conversation was larger than anyone imagined. The impact was deeper than anyone expected. And the story was far from over. The speaker looked around the room. Then they said something that nobody would forget. They said that sometimes people never realize how many lives they touch. Sometimes they never discover how much good they leave behind. Sometimes they never hear the conversations taking place when they are not around. But if they could hear them, they would be shocked. Because they would finally understand something important. Their presence mattered. Their actions mattered. Their kindness mattered. Far more than they ever believed. Stay till the end. Because what happens next will reveal the most unexpected part of the entire story. The family member sat in complete silence. The conversation had already revealed so much. Yet somehow it felt like the biggest truth was still waiting just beyond the horizon. A final piece. A final revelation. A final unexpected truth. And when that truth finally comes to light, everything will make sense in a way nobody could have imagined. The room felt different now. The conversation had already revealed memories, admiration, and unexpected truths, yet everyone could sense that something even more important was approaching. It was the feeling people get when they know a story is building toward a moment they will never forget. No one wanted to interrupt. No one wanted to leave. Every person in that room understood that the next words could change everything. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. The speaker looked toward the family member and smiled gently. It was not the smile of someone sharing gossip. It was the smile of someone finally speaking a truth they had carried for far too long. Then they said something unexpected. You know what surprises me the most? The family member shook their head. The speaker continued. Most people never realize how much light they bring into other people's lives. The room became silent again. Not because the statement was complicated. Because it was powerful. Everyone began thinking about the people who had changed their lives without even knowing it. Everyone began remembering moments that seemed small but felt important. Everyone began realizing that some of the greatest influences in life never receive recognition. The speaker paused. Then they revealed another memory. A memory nobody else in the room had ever heard before. Years ago, they had faced a decision that seemed impossible. Two paths stood before them. One path was easy. The other required courage. The easy path promised comfort. The difficult path promised growth. And while struggling to decide, they remembered something. Not a lesson. Not advice. Not a speech. A simple example. An example set by the person they were talking about. The memory returned with perfect clarity. It reminded them that difficult choices often lead to meaningful outcomes. That memory became the reason they moved forward. The family member listened carefully. Every detail added another layer to the story. Every revelation made the mystery deeper. Stay till the end. Because the most surprising part has not arrived yet. The speaker continued. They explained that people often believe their influence ends where their actions end. But that is not true. Influence travels. Influence grows. Influence reaches places nobody expects. A kind word can stay in someone's mind for years. A thoughtful action can inspire a decision decades later. A moment of encouragement can become the turning point in another person's story. That realization changed the atmosphere of the room. Suddenly this conversation was no longer about one person. It was about the invisible connections that shape all human lives. The family member could feel the importance of every word. Then something happened that nobody expected. The speaker laughed softly. Not because the story was funny. Because they had just remembered something remarkable. A moment so small that most people would have forgotten it completely. Yet somehow it stayed with them. They described a day when everyone else was focused on themselves. Everyone was busy. Everyone was distracted. Everyone was rushing. But one person noticed something nobody else saw. One person took a moment to care. One person made someone feel seen. The action lasted less than a minute. Yet the memory lasted for years. The room fell silent. Because everyone understood the meaning behind that story. The greatest acts are not always the biggest. Sometimes the greatest acts are the ones performed quietly. Don't skip. Something huge is waiting for you. The speaker then revealed the reason they finally decided to share all these thoughts. For years, they assumed these memories belonged only to them. They assumed there was no reason to talk about them. But recently, something changed. A conversation reminded them how important it is to tell people what they mean before the opportunity passes. A realization reminded them that appreciation should not remain hidden forever. A truth reminded them that people deserve to know the positive impact they have made. The family member nodded slowly. Now everything was starting to make sense. This conversation was not accidental. It happened because the moment had finally arrived. The speaker had carried these thoughts long enough. Now they needed to be spoken. Stay till the end. The biggest revelation is still ahead. The speaker looked around the room one more time. Then they shared something that completely changed the direction of the conversation. They admitted that there was once a period when they felt invisible. A period when they believed nobody noticed their efforts. A period when they questioned whether anything they did truly mattered. During that season of doubt, they began paying attention to people around them. And one person stood out. Not because they demanded attention. Not because they sought recognition. Because they continued doing good regardless of who was watching. That example became unforgettable. It taught a lesson that remained powerful for years. The lesson was simple. Character is revealed when nobody is looking. The room became silent once again. The family member could tell this was leading somewhere important. The speaker took a deep breath. Then came another unexpected revelation. They explained that many people spend their lives waiting for one giant moment to define them. One achievement. One success. One unforgettable event. But the truth is different. Life is often shaped by hundreds of small moments. Hundreds of quiet decisions. Hundreds of opportunities to choose kindness, patience, courage, and understanding. And over time, those small moments become a legacy. The family member was completely captivated now. Every sentence felt meaningful. Every memory felt connected. Every revelation felt closer to a final truth. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Then the speaker revealed something nobody in the room expected. They admitted that they once shared these same thoughts with another person. Not recently. Years ago. And that second person reacted exactly the same way. Surprised. Silent. Thoughtful. Moved. Because they too had witnessed the same qualities. They too remembered the same kindness. They too carried stories nobody else knew. At that moment, the family member realized something incredible. This was not one person's opinion. This was a pattern. A pattern repeated across years. Across experiences. Across different people. Different situations. Different memories. Yet the conclusion remained the same. That realization changed everything. The room felt heavier. Not with sadness. With significance. The kind of significance that appears when people discover a truth larger than themselves. The speaker smiled once more. Then they shared the final thought before ending the conversation. A thought that stayed with everyone who heard it. They said that the world often celebrates loud achievements. But some of the most meaningful contributions are quiet. Some of the most important influences are invisible. Some of the most valuable people underestimate their own impact. And that is why conversations like this matter. Because sometimes a person needs to hear what others have quietly known for years. The family member sat silently, reflecting on everything they had heard. Every memory. Every story. Every revelation. Yet somehow they could feel that one final piece remained hidden. One final truth. One final unexpected discovery. And when that discovery finally comes to light, it will reveal why this entire conversation happened in the first place. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Because the most unforgettable part of this story is about to begin.